I've contributed just the introduction to this report, which is a scene setter. So what's the scene? Ukraine is at war, and it's at war on two fronts. With Russia, we know about that. Russia claims it's a civil war, by the way, but in fact Russia's insertion into the war is such that it cannot be under any possible measurement. So there's a war going on with Russia because Ukraine's territorial integrity has been violated by the annexation of Crimea and by the destabilization of part of the Donbass in eastern Ukraine. But there's another war going on, and that's Ukraine's war with itself and with its Soviet legacy. The war is between the old guard and the reformers, the progressives and, if you like, the regressives. So on the side of the progressives, they, who are not necessarily in the ascendancy, I might add, but they maintain that Ukraine is a European country, that it should be in the EU, that it should be in Western structures, even NATO, and that's what the Revolution of Dignity, or the Euromaidan of 2014, was all about. A popular revolution against, not against Russia, but against the old guard. But the regressives, the old guard, they are fighting back because at stake for them is power and money. And some people call them oligarchs, but really that's an inaccurate term because that suggests that they hold a great deal of political power. But by and large, in fact, what they do is through their money, they have bought excessive sway in Ukrainian politics and inhibits the reforms which would ultimately restrict their ability to acquire more money, and actually it might restrict their freedom ultimately. So if you allow Ukraine to fail, either through Russian intervention or through its own deficiencies, then that could have not just a spillover effect on other countries, but it also does encourage Russia to move on elsewhere and to take parts of what it considers to be its backyard back for itself. Undoubtedly, Ukraine has reformed more in the last 2-3 years since the Euromaidan than it has in its previous 26 years of post-Soviet existence. So it's clearly experimenting with a change of system. On the other hand, you can certainly see areas with excessive interests, excessive sway from oligarchs, whereby you feel that this experiment really is not succeeding, and whereby so powerful are the vested interests that Western assistance, Western pressure are not enough to change ultimately 70 years of Soviet legacy plus the Russian interference. I think there is all to play for. Ukraine is, by its very name, on the edge, and therefore it merits an extra push by the West in order to ensure that it is on the path that the majority of its citizens want. Not what the West wants, that's irrelevant. Not what Russia wants, that should be irrelevant, but really what the majority of 44 million Ukrainians want. The report is meant to have impact, hopefully give impetus to those in the West to see that Ukraine is worth saving, that there's a historical responsibility towards saving it for our own security and what we owe Ukraine, considering what Ukraine went through in the Second World War when Ukrainians were effectively viewed racially by Hitler's Nazi regime. So if the report can do anything, it can just shift the centre of the debate towards understanding that Ukraine is a real, genuine country, just as we think of Portugal or Ireland as one, but that probably hasn't infiltrated our mindset just yet. And once it does, then we can think of it and protect it in the way that we do protect other European countries. But as of now, I think we're still stuck in this legacy of the Cold War, mindset of the Cold War, where too many people believe that shouldn't antagonize Russia, it's not worth it, and that kind of mindset is actually dangerous fatalism.